because we're an anomaly. Typically in network marketing, there's good products. So I love our industry, and there are good products, but there's nothing like ours. And I think for that reason, Pharma would not see us as a threat. We also are not going to be distributing through a traditional channel that would interfere with Big Pharma. For regulatory, we're not allowed to make claims that would cause them a concern, despite the fact that the products do more than what we say. So I think that protects us. And I'm doing a few things that I can't talk about. I think I might say it that way. We have a number of incredible alliances, and I'll just leave it at that. Some of these will become self-evident in August.
Well, and just know that you have tons and tons of brand partners praying for you.
True.
I appreciate that. That's obviously the most important thing.
Divine protection.
This company has a destiny to fulfill. There's no question about it. So I personally don't worry about my safety. But I think it's wise to develop alliances, take precautions, and we're doing that. Yeah.
I wanted to make a comment and I have a question. First comment, I am so appreciative that you love the Lord and that you use your gifting to better humanity. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know that everybody feels that, and we're all praying for you, so thank you for that.
Thank you, that's very kind of you.
Yes. Next thing is about the water machine.
Okay.
I love the name.
Okay.
And when's it coming and how much is it?
Okay, great questions. Great questions. So the first thing, I'll answer the easy question first. The price will be about $5,000 US, and we have a company that we're working with on financing. So our finance team has said that this deal is almost certain at this point. I don't know what the monthly amount will be. Maybe it's about $200 a month, something in that ballpark. But we're trying to make this affordable for everyone. On availability, the initial plan was to do a release of the first 50 machines in February for the top qualifiers, and then go to market April, May. That timeline is a question because we have two parts in the machine that have to be NSF certified, and we're having a little bit of a supply issue on that. So we're trying to expedite that so we can get it to market. So they're really minor things, at this point. But obviously the machines exist. We're in the kind of like the final stages now before release. So we know there's a massive demand, and we're trying to push things along as quickly as possible.
What is the biggest benefit for people when they drink that water?
I wish I could answer that. There are many things I would really like to say, because we've seen, I think I would say we've seen some things that have been humbling. It's a lot to take in.
Okay.
I might say it that way.
Okay.
We've had people in the test group that have had such dramatic changes in their lives from using the water, that it's the enormity of it is it's a lot.
Okay.
Going beyond that, Caitlin Connor is going to, at Vision, is going to be presenting for the studies that we've done up to this date, and we have more that are going on this year. The way that I think about this with the, I was going to say genesis of the technology, no pun intended, is that we're trying to use this as an opportunity to correct basic mechanisms within the cell. So if we look at what happens as people age, we can think of that as a disease state. People are going from a state of perfect health to where there's now dysfunction in the cell. And if we can just simply restore the cell back to a normal, healthy state, then certain things start to disappear that might normally be associated with aging. And what we see happen through the clinical studies is that mitochondrial function is restored. There's an immediate increase in energy in the cells. Protein synthesis goes up dramatically. That means people will heal faster, build muscle tissue faster, bone density increasing. We see longevity mechanisms get turned on, so NAD production gets turned on, among a number of other things. That we see that the red blood cells volumize, cells in the body volumize, and this would be a reversal of aging, which is quantifiable. We haven't done telomere testing yet because we haven't had the units available, but that's something we will do, and we're also looking at epigenetic studies. But I would say the biggest benefits are that it improves the metabolism. If I look at claims that would be compliant for regulatory, we see improvements in energy metabolism in the cell. People that use the product, they lose body fat. If you take adequate protein and you exercise, you build muscle and strengthen stamina more rapidly than before. Healing more quickly. There's other benefits, but I think in terms of regulatory, that's about what we could say at the moment.
Okay,
Yeah.
sign
Can we
me
write
up.
it off?
Sorry?
As a brand partner, can we write it off?
Of course.
Of course.
Write it off.
Well, that's
Right.
taxes.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
water.
Check with your CPA.
I think what,
It's a tool in the business.
I think what I would say is, as what's happened with X39, there is not going to be an easy way to hold back testimonials. People will be talking about it regardless, and our compliance department, we've prepped them on this. We're not going to, of course, control what happens at meetings. That's beyond our control. But as far as what's out on the internet, we have to police that. But this technology has already changed people's lives in an incredibly dramatic way. My daughter, who's in the building now, I'll share a quick story, because the two of us had the same thing. So I was in a terrible auto accident when I was 25. A kid that was 16 stole a car, went drunk driving, and nearly killed my father and I. And my head smashed into the windshield, almost killed my dad and I. And I ended up getting a number of sebaceous cysts on my head after that I had most of my life. And my daughter developed sebaceous cysts on her head as well. And we started drinking the water, and these sebaceous cysts ruptured and exploded and came out and started draining out of our heads. It's kind of gross, but the reason I bring this up is that she went to a doctor to see this, to talk to him about it, and he said, he goes, that's a complete medical anomaly, because it's impossible. Nothing like that can happen. And he said, I have no way of explaining how something like that could happen. So maybe a good or bad example, but I would say we've had a number of people use the water, and there have been some medically unexplainable things that have happened that have been incredibly great. Yeah.
Is there a possibility of, because our crystals all have, as I understand it, we have hydrogen, oxygen, and water crystals in all of the patches, correct? So is there a possibility of the water crystals being water crystals that come from this light-infused water that we're getting from these machines?
We can't, if I understand the question, well, there's a number of ways to interpret the question. I would say we're not going to take the water from the water machine and put it in the patches, because we've done already over 80 clinical studies on the patches, and we can't alter their formulas.
Okay.
The patches emit specific biophotons, and we can leave those alone. They work just fine. This technology complements the patches. So I think that's the way that we would look at it. It's a synergy. And then the question is, how can we optimize that synergy? The path, to me, the path forward on physical products like machines to come out with is very, very clear. But there's an offshoot of this, which is incredibly interesting. We've already found out how to take the technology and cause the biophotons that are in the water to go to specific parts of the body. So you could have them release in the liver, in the kidneys, in the eyes, in the brain. That's like a future technology that we want to release.
You're saying that it can be directed?
It can be directed. We've
Wow.
already done that, but it's in its infancy. So now it's a matter of taking that and putting it into a product that people could use. But technologically, we've done it. Yeah.
I have a question. So I'm from California, and I
Okay.
now moved to Nevada, so I'm very much about my hydration in my skin now. So
Okay.
I always carry a little spritzer.
Yep.
Could we put the water in a spritzer? Is it acceptable that way, or is it only for internal?
Totally fine.
Do we put
Totally
it in a
fine.
spritzer?
I would say that what we've documented up to this point, based on the way that we do our tests, is that the water stays active for about 5 hours. However, it may be far longer than that. We just haven't documented that yet. Also in our studies, we have people drink the water immediately after processing, and then we record changes in their biochemistry and changes in the bioelectrical activity in the body. So the proper thing to do scientifically, ethically, is to tell people, drink the water based on how we've done our studies. It's best to do it on an empty stomach, best to do it first thing in the morning, and best to drink it right after it's dispensed from the machine. There's going to be other ways you can utilize it. There should be no problem at all applying it topically. No problem at all. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Copper peptides. How important would it be to supplement copper if you may be deficient? How would you know? Is it in combination with hydration, or is there maybe a better way to elevate the copper peptides if maybe you don't feel results, or maybe you think you should be getting more results than you're getting?
I would say, number one, it's extremely important. It's extremely important to review everything about your life and see where some of the missing holes are, because we all have it, right? So it's important to look at, well, what's my diet like? Am I getting enough sleep? There's studies today which show that the regularity of your life patterns are important. So are you going to sleep at the same time each night? Are you waking up at the same time? Are you exercising at the same time? These things tend to matter. What type of exercise are people doing? There's some exercise that does not contribute to health at all, whereas other forms of exercise are better than any type of pharmaceutical drug. So it's important to look at these. Now, when we're talking about formation of copper peptide, getting the best results, the way I would look at this is, as an exception, if you have a problem metabolizing copper, you would want to take a blood test, and you would want to know that. So you could talk to your doctor about it. Preferably, you have an MD that's a clinical nutritionist. That would kind of like be ideal. And then there's tests that you could take to look at your serum copper levels, and then you do what's called an organic acid test. You look at how your body is processing energy. So you can get enough copper in your diet, but it's difficult. Chocolate is a source. Liver has a crazy high concentration of copper, but liver is also very high in iron, and it makes what's known today as people are way more susceptible to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease from taking too much liver, because the iron causes oxidative stress. So you can't really eat liver all the time. So there's also some disinformation about copper online, and the FDA has not really helped out. Years ago, back in the 50s, daily copper consumption was 3 milligrams per day. Today, it's 900 micrograms, so just under 1 milligram. But the studies are very clear. You could take up to 10 milligrams daily without a problem. Even 30 milligrams, your body clears that out within 2 hours. But copper and zinc have a relationship, so you've got to balance the copper and zinc. So 2 milligrams, 4 milligrams per day of copper glycinate supplement is probably pretty good, but you'd want to, again, work with your doctor on that. Also, it's not a bad idea to look at making sure you're getting enough glycine and lysine in your diet, because they're integral, they're necessary for the formation of GHKCU. Also, glycine is part of glutathione, and now there's studies that showing that glycine supplementation increases lifespan by 24%. So this is why glycine is in our Cellulargize formula that we're coming out with this month. And it's no wonder, because glycine is the backbone of glutathione and GHK, so it's kind of easy to understand. So I would look at it from the perspective of, how does your diet line up? How does your exercise line up, sleep and so forth? The other thing is on protein. If we want to be building muscle, we want to be repairing damaged tissue, if we're not getting adequate amounts of protein in the diet, then those mechanisms just don't occur. We're about to do a very, very interesting study. So over the years, I've spoken with thousands of athletes at very, very high levels, and this is a subject that comes up. So when I've spoken with bodybuilders and they're coaching younger bodybuilders, they'll say, without question, where people fail is they don't eat enough. It's a pretty cool problem to have, right? God bless you. And what you see in the literature is that if you want to build muscle strength, stamina, you need somewhere around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight to build muscle, and that's divided into, let's say, 40 gram servings. So you'd have to get about 5 servings per day of protein. That's a lot of work, actually. You can get away with about 80% of that. So you take your body weight, multiply it by 80%, and then that's the number of grams that you need in protein daily, and then let's say 40 gram approximate servings. The quality of the protein also matters. So this is where someone consuming whey protein, which is higher in the branched chain amino acids, is far better than, let's say, a soy or pea protein, but that can be offset by adding branched chain amino acids. So this is all to say, if you don't have the biochemistry right, you can use technology like the patches, but you won't get full benefit out of it.
Excellent.
I'm turning 62 in April, and I've done this repeatedly with myself, is change my protein consumption. And I did a recent test starting back in November, and I wanted to look at, okay, using X39, X49, the water machine, what could I do in my fitness? In 3 weeks, I got up to a 300-pound bench, and I was able to rapidly build muscle and decrease body fat, very rapidly. Now, I had a number of years ago when I turned 55, I wanted to push my body and see where I could get, and I got up to about 217 pounds at a pretty decent body fat percentage. So this is to say there's satellite stem cells, satellite sites in the muscle fiber, so building muscle back is far easier. But it just underscores the point that if you don't have enough protein in your diet, you don't have the raw material to repair or build new muscle tissue. Yeah.
This isn't a medical question for you,
Okay.
but it's a question that I have for me personally. I went off statin drugs because I have high cholesterol a long time ago. Been patching about 4 months, and I got my blood work done. My cholesterol increased. Has that happened in any studies you've seen or ever heard of that?
I would say yes, absolutely. Not in our studies, because we typically don't measure for cholesterol, but I've certainly seen it in studies.
Because of
Steve-
course the doctor wants to put me back, and I'm like, nope, not
Yeah,
doing
no,
that.
Let me explain it this way. We had a medical doctor on our staff for many years, Steve Holtuanger, who passed. He had an untimely passing. An amazing human being. And he was a medical doctor, clinical nutritionist, and neurologist. And when I would have this conversation with him about cholesterol, he would say, well, keep in mind two things. Number one, cholesterol acts as an antioxidant in the body. It's the precursor to hormones. Dietary cholesterol has very little effect, despite on what Big Pharma and how medical doctors are educated. Dietary cholesterol has very little impact on serum cholesterol levels. So when people's cholesterol levels go up, it can be a response to inflammation in the body. It can be a response to changing hormone levels, and the body is trying to reach equilibrium. So for men, I would use a similar example, is that when men's PSA levels go up, what else is going on that triggered that PSA to go up? Because some of the things that medical doctors are taught make no sense whatsoever, right? The medical community would have us believe that testosterone causes high PSA levels. Well, if that were true, then every teenage man would have prostate cancer, right? Because that's when your testosterone is like at 1,000 nanograms. And so, of course, it's total nonsense. So we have to look at some of the underlying mechanisms beyond that. There are certainly, as Band-Aids, there are ways to reduce cholesterol. And then there's even studies that have been done on Eskimos that showed that when the cholesterol levels were sky high, there was no type of cardiovascular disease. So cholesterol levels are just one data point. I think it's helpful to look at all the other surrounding circumstances, and also, is it the type of cholesterol that's actually going to damage the cardiovascular system? So looking for the underlying mechanisms is super important.
Okay.
And then, of course, developing strategies. To me, exercise is the single best way of dealing with cholesterol, managing cholesterol. Diet, not so much. Of course, having a healthy diet. But then there's some supplements that are going to regulate cholesterol. But
Yeah,
exercise
that's what I gotta
would be
find.
the go-to.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm out of time.
Do we get pictures?
Yeah, let's do pictures.
Oh, yeah.